Hello, beautiful creative soul, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra-Care for the Creative Soul, a show where we are here to support you, to just champion your self-care and restore the sacred to it. Hello, my name is Pollyanna Blanco, and I'm your host today. And today we're going to be talking about turn density into diamonds with cosmic dream birthing during Mercury retrograde. And I'm so excited to talk about this topic. And it's something that when I sat with what wanted to come through me to all of you, that is what came through, is what's coming through me. And I'm going to share it with you today. And in full transparency too, as you can tell, I've kind of got a different background. I'm traveling. So, lighting is a new experiment. It's this is where where the light is right now, and it's beautiful. It's pouring in. It's radiant, and yeah. So I hope you're enjoying that. One of the things that invited me more than ever to do this show is some of my own experiences, the experiences of others I've talked to lately, of recent, and what I've just been noticing inside of the collective as well too, what's been sort of downloading through. And I almost even considered not doing the show today in full transparency. However, I feel like what I've been learning along my way is that in those moments, sometimes the most fragile moments, those are the moments when I need to show up the most. It's when, of course, my ego mind wants to be like, no, stay over here, lick your wounds. And yet it's probably the rawest, most vulnerable, most purposeful. I'm just sitting and waiting for the words to come through because I feel I'm trusting that there's a lot of inspired guidance that's going to come through me today for all of you. So today's topic really hits home on a number of levels, and it's because right now we're in a Mercury retrograde period phase after a new moon, after the Lionsgate portal, and I'm gonna invite you, if you happen to be catching this live, to just if you have any comments, any questions, to share those in the chat, and because I'd love to hear what your experience has been like since the Lionsgate. The Lionsgate, I did do a share last weekend about that, and I just want to back up for a second because I feel like it sort of sets a context or a container for what we're going to be talking about today. And it's that the Lionsgate, as I've come to understand it more and more, is really a time of rebirth. That's it in a nutshell. And what that means is that we have this physical body of form, which we often get so identified with. And how can we not get identified with it in the beginning? I mean, it's juicy, it's fun, it's novel. I mean, when we're not here, before we come into incarnation, we don't have this cosmic jumpsuit. And so it's like any kind of gadget, we can get really enamored with it and have fun playing with it. And sometimes it can malfunction too, and we can get confused about that. And so the Lionsgate portal is really that time where, as our consciousness raises, so too does our capacity to return to the truth of who we are. So too does our light body also begin to expand. And again, that light body is that, I almost want to call it like an energetic template. It's so much more than that, but for clarity and simplicity, I'm going to call it just like an energetic template. And it's got many layers to it, and it holds different frequencies of conscious awareness and embodiment. And, we sort of appear, on this earth in this cosmic jumpsuit, and we start off identifying with it. And then there are these peak up level times of the year where, as we start through our own soul journey of, having various experiences in this body form, there are these peak up level moments where we are on a soul level being invited to remember ourselves beyond any of the limitations, beyond the illusions, beyond the noise and the distractions out there, and even in here, because there's a lot in here for a lot of us, so that we can come back to that golden energy that's like sun energy that we are. And that's why, the nimbuses, I teach art history during the year in the school where I'm at. The nimbus, the sort of the halo, or even the golden orbs of, that kind of look like suns in certain paintings. I'm thinking of Matthias Grunewald. I don't have an example of it right now to show you, but a lot of things are hidden in plain view in artworks and in carvings and in, just even literature too, but definitely visually is where it tends to be, because back many thousands of years ago, before there was reading and writing, or when only very few people could read and write, that's where a lot of the key codes or the activations or the little clues from signs, breadcrumbs from the universe were hidden in plain view. And so it's connecting to the sense of our expanded self, and how we are, all coming from that at oneness, that golden light, and dropping down in refracted layers into this expression, right? So really, a rebirth is a time of remembering. And we're in Mercury retrograde right now, and it is that time of remembering, revisiting. And I don't get into a lot of astrology because, again, it's another layer of story, and yet it can be helpful. And I'm not really well versed in it, quite frankly. I do talk about it from time to time because it does help me, because I still look at it. Everything is available, right? What I will say, though, is that with so many people talking about it, I feel when I tune into it that it is important that I use some of those hooks and anchors to hang, downloads on, because I tend to want to talk more in broad brushstrokes, but I don't want to dilute everything so much that it doesn't resonate and translate to lived experience for a lot of people. So Virgo is an air sign, and she loves to be Marie Kondo organized, and she is, or he, or Virgo, but I feel into Virgo as a very feminine energy, and it's this idea also of analyzing, of not just coming up with ideas, but looking at the ideas and the choices that have been taken up until now, and reflecting on them, and using this time until the 28th of August, this window of time that we're in right now, to integrate our experiences, to notice the thoughts, notice the emotions, notice the physical things that are maybe cropping up in your body. And because we're at a precipice right now, from now into early January 2025, of a lot of supportive energies that want to anchor in our lives, that dreams that want to birth. And the reason I refer to them as this whole process that I'm going to explain today a little bit more as cosmic dream birthing, is because our dreams, oftentimes when we're talking about dreams on a soul level, they're dreams that we're remembering too as we, have this experience here on Earth. They're inklings. I know I've had a number of them in my own experience. I'm sure you have too. And there's layers to them, right? It starts with one, and then that leads into another, and into another, and into another. And this is part of that beautiful emergence and expansion journey. For example, 10 years ago, my book, In Rhythm with Your Soul, came out. And 10 years prior to that, I had this inception, I was seated with a remembering that started to bubble up into my awareness. It was a soul calling that there was a book inside of me. And it was deeper than, I just want to write a book because I want to make money, right? Because truthfully, from my experience, quite candidly, the book business is not, it's not about that. And if it is, well, that's a rare gem. But I was clear inside of myself that there was this process inside of me that was wanting to catch my attention. And so I just started writing. I didn't even know what it was going to be about. And I started getting into this process where I would start and then stop and start and then stop because of the thoughts that would come up, because of the emotions that would come up, because of even sometimes physical body sensations. And also my spirit too, slipping back into the mental body of fear, doubt, and hesitancy. So it was a very long gestation period, a very long birthing process. And I kind of giggled because during that process, on two very separate occasions, and I've mentioned this in other places before, I had an intuitive reading with one intuitive and then with another one, and the two of them didn't know each other, didn't know I knew them, and it was with maybe a year or two in between. And they both said to me, there are 7 books inside of you. And I laughed out loud. I was like, really? 7 books inside of me? If it took me 10 years to write this book, I really hope that, my belief in reverse aging is like the real deal, because I'm going to need a little extra time here for this to, all, appear in the world of form. So what I learned through that process was the beauty of the creative intelligence or source energy, working through us as an emergence process, working through us, whether it's a book, whether it's a business, whether it's a passion project, whether it's an innate ability. Maybe some of you, I know I was talking to a past client recently who was sharing how she's been receiving downloads that align with what she heard years ago, that she's a channel, and so, we're all in the process of rebirthing, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. And today, what I want to talk to you about in a little bit of detail is how there's 7 different layers of contractions that we go through, that I've gone through, and that you may be noticing when you reflect on it after hearing what I have to share. Again, only take it if it resonates for you, that there are 7 stages of contractions that we go through when we are birthing something into the world. So the very first stage has to do with, and I like to compare these to our chakras, because our chakras are literally the energetic centers in our body, as a lot of you know, that where we send and receive information, we receive feedback, and we ultimately, we integrate it into a sense of greater equilibrium within. The root chakra, that very first contraction is, do I even have the right to have this dream? Is it a pipe dream? Who am I to ask for this? Who am I to claim it? And that was something very real for me with my book. My very first book was, I had this, like I said, this intense sense that there was a book inside of me that wanted to come through me. And I had no idea what it was about. So I would write just to discover what it was that wanted to come through me. And as I'd start to write, I get inspired, but then this voice that was my ego mind would come in and say, who are you to write a book? You don't have the credentials. Like, I had this limiting belief and this scaffold in my mind that told me only experts can write books. How ridiculous is that? Everyone has a story. Everyone has something to share. And when we're sharing from that place of service, why not? Why not? The world is better for it. that contraction really slowed down my birthing process. I'm grateful for it. I learned so much through it. And it lent into the second contraction that I faced once I started getting the ball rolling a little bit more and thought, you know what? There is something inside of me. It's coming out in bits and pieces. I'm going to honor it. It's slow. I'm going to honor it. The second contraction was at my sacral chakra. And that contraction was very much about my relationship to myself and how I saw myself, and also how I perceived other people would see me. And fortunately, when I was actually in the process of writing in that flow state, that wasn't even on the radar screen. It was after I finished writing something and looked at what had come through me that aspect of me came forward. And it was a part of me that had been hard on myself. That inner perfectionist, that part of me that had a strong inner critic, that was afraid of being embarrassed or rejected or judged because I was judging myself, right? That was a contraction that, again, squeezed some of the joy and inspiration out of the process and required me to look at it. It required me to not just, flip past that page in my journey and actually sit with it. Then the third contraction was at my solar plexus chakra as I was moving through this process of writing my book. And it was this sense of, do I have the power to make this happen? And the interesting thing about my journey with the book, and this is something that you may be noticing in your own life too, is that you start to build some momentum. You have your wobbles along the way, yet you are getting more consistent. And then this other pop-up, energetic pop-up comes up from inside of you. And it's really this question of, do I have what it takes? Do I really have what it takes? I'm showing up, but is it worth completing it? Because I felt like the solar plexus chakra was really what could pull me down a rabbit hole and drop me back down into a major pit of fear, doubt, and hesitancy. And it often tried to really hard, because the process I went through is when I got into my rhythm with writing was I found that there was a window of time in the morning from, say, about later in the morning from about 11 a.m. until about 3:30 p.m. where I could write. And I kind of went through a process of getting into the writing. I held an angelite stone in my one hand, and I had another little stone that I'd gotten from an intuitive that said, that I pulled out of a pile of stones that said the rest. No, it said rest. But I interpreted it as I needed to take a break because my solar plexus chakra was so, maybe this is not a good use of your time. Maybe you're putting too much time and energy into something that's not going to happen. And so that little stone was to remind me, don't take a rest, get the rest done. Let it come through you. Don't stop this flow with the fear, doubt, and hesitancy. So I very much had this process where I would just kind of get into a free flow, and I would just trust whatever wanted to come through me. I wouldn't say I was channeling, but I would say that I was in an intuitive creative flow, and it did pour through me. And then there was a certain period of time where it would just start to fizzle out. And I couldn't force it with my ego mind. I couldn't use my solar plexus and will it, because I wanted to get more done. I even tried writing later in the day and earlier in the day, and nothing would come through me. So in that process with the third contraction, it was recognizing that this whole process allowed me to really more deeply embrace that there was something more fully moving through me that wasn't even outside of me. It was an expanded part of me it was up to me whether I was willing to, surrender to it or try to control it. And so I chose surrender, thankfully. And then the the fourth contraction was in the heart center. And, as I talk about these in a linear way, they were definitely not linear. They went through cycles and rotations. It wasn't a linear process. It's just easier to explain it this way. The fourth contraction was in the heart. It was a lot of old hurts that came up around times where I chose to be my creative, intuitive self, and it backfired. It just backfired. At this point, I was writing the second section of my book, and I had gotten past the sort of safety, sex, and power issues to some degree, not fully, but to some degree, enough to get myself to the point where I was really loving the book project. And at that point, what happened was a very amazing transformative experience through the process. And that was recognizing that the very moments I was most hurt by were the moments I was going to share in that section of my book, where, I was at a dance competition and all of a sudden I'm dancing and it feels like the straps on my costume have broken. And I'm having a little war between my ego mind and my intuition, and my ego mind saying, focus on the dance. Stop scaring yourself and distracting yourself. And my intuitive mind is saying, wait a second, you can trust yourself. Your straps are coming down. You need to, trust yourself. And so instead of, storing those hurt moments as grief in my heart chakra, I held compassion for them. I smiled at them. I loved them back into the light of my awareness. And that became the transformation through the writing process, where I actually shared them openly with a sense of humor, with a sense of acceptance, with a sense of compassion. And then the fifth contraction was in the throat chakra. This was when I was getting into the proofreading, the editing process, because at one point, I haven't even mentioned the title of my book, but I will say that I felt a very strong calling to use the Jungian concept of the daemon in the title. And I received a lot of fear, doubt, and hesitancy in response to that I couldn't use that name in the title because no one would buy the book, because it would trigger fear, doubt, and hesitancy in them. And it made sense logically and rationally. And yet something inside of me, because this is how I knew this whole project was a soul birth. It was rebirthing me through the process of, moving it through me into the world of form, was because I could not compromise on that. While I checked with my ego mind to see, is this just me being stubborn as a Taurian, or is this because I need to honor something that's going to serve a greater good beyond what I can see in this now moment, beyond this little micro moment of fear, doubt, and hesitancy. And I dug in my heels because I recognized that, no, this is what the medicine is about, right? This is what the medicine has been about for me through my whole journey of this writing process. So how can I, gloss over it if it's about healing and transformation? So that was the contraction at my fifth chakra, my throat chakra. And there were a couple of other ones too. One being with a reference to the Isis and Osiris story that I really wanted to include in there, which I did end up actually taking out. So that helped me to discern which was negotiable and which was non-negotiable. And with that one, I could see why at the time. In hindsight, I kind of wish I kept it in there. However, it did support me to see the larger picture with the other concept that I did want to include. And then the sixth contraction was at the third eye. The third eye was all about at the point where it was about to go out into the world. And there was this feeling of feeling really exposed. And I think I know a lot of us on the inner awakening, spiritual awakening, ascension pathway, this sense of like coming out as your intuitive self, the sense of really embodying that larger vision of yourself and not keeping it over here in the corner for a few select people who get you. Just saying, hey, this is me, because the book was about ready to come out into the world. And I had been in this lovely little woman cave, this spiritual crystal cave of cosmic creativity. And I felt real comfy in there. I got really settled in there. That became my new, first it wasn't my comfort zone, but then it became my comfort zone. I grew into that womb space. I grew into that container. And now it was time to literally birth the book out into the world and trust my inner seeing, my inner vision. And it scared me. It actually really freaked me out because at the time I was still teaching, as I still am today, in high school, and I had a section on science, and I thought, oh my gosh, what if the science is all wrong? I wrote it kind of intuitively. How do you write about science intuitively? I had to research, but the way I connected it, I was like, will it hang together? Will I be ridiculed? All these, and then the other chakras lit up too, like ding, 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 like I was in an arcade. So I share all of this from my personal journey because I'm going to come back and recap for your own journey with whatever is inside of you right now that really, really, really wants to come through you. And the world will be so much better for you having honored it. The final contraction was the crown chakra. And the crown chakra was all after the book came out into the world. And it was recognizing what I thought was completion was just another beginning beyond anything my mind of form could have ever understood. I thought, I had put 10 years into birthing this whole book, and I'd grown so much through the process that when I got it out, it was kind of like so much focus had been on the birthing process that now it was out in the world. And I was like, oh, I need to look after this book. I need to look after this. I need to get her, registered for, this camp and that camp. No, I need to get her in a bookstore, and I need to get her here, and I need to get her there. And I need to let people see what she can do. I need to document it and take photos and put it out to the world. And I was like, oh my goodness. It's funny how sometimes it's only revealed to us step by step, moment by moment, that which we would most inspire us and compel us to move forward. Because if we were to see everything all at once, we probably never get started, right? So just to recap right now, in just a moment to just like hand on heart, take a second and just breathe in. I'm going to invite you to take 3 Ave Soar breaths, because what I just shared was a lot. And I know it was focused on my journey. I'm attempting to use some storytelling just to support you to see yourself potentially in what I've shared. And I hope that has been the case. And I'm going to check in the chat in a moment. I will recap, but first I'm going to just invite you to place your hands on your heart. And let's start off with 3 deep Ave Soar breaths. These are 3 beautiful breaths from my beloved teachers, Sri Ram Ka and Master Lady Kira. I'm sure you're already following them, because thanks to them, I'm on Oneness Talk Radio, and I'm so grateful. And if you're not, I encourage you to go check them out. They've been wonderful guides in my life and continue to be for decades now. So on the inhale, we're going to breathe in Ave, which is we're opening to our divine presence so that it can be here now. And then on the exhale, we're going to exhale Sa and allow a beautiful smile to form on our face, because it's that trust that we're all here in this now moment, our divine presence, and it's here guiding us, and we're open and we're ready for it to be present as you're listening. So breathing in Ave, Again, Ave. Sa. And one more time, Ave. Sa. And really feeling the warmth of your hands on your heart and the warmth of your heart on your hands. And just recapping, your root chakra when you're rebirthing is going to be about your right to be here, to take up space. Your sacral chakra is going to be an invitation to forgive yourself and others, to be gentler and kinder to yourself. Your third chakra is going to invite you to align your will with your inspiration so that you can choose joy over trying to make things happen. You're going to notice in your fourth chakra when you're birthing something new that there are hidden griefs and that there are tender spots that through the process of expansion are calling forward greater compassion and presence and vulnerability within yourself, with yourself, deeper intimacy. Your fifth chakra is going to invite in the opportunity to get clear about what is true for you and how you see things, and to trust yourself more. Your third eye chakra, your sixth chakra, is going to invite you into a place of trusting your intuition, trusting your guidance, and at the same time, seeing through anything that's seeking to keep you playing small. And your seventh chakra, your crown chakra, is going to invite you to be open to how your dream, honoring your dream, has activated a whole new timeline, a whole new experience, a whole new trajectory in your life through having had the courage, the spiritual tenacity, the stick-with-itness, and the humility to embrace the journey and the co-creative process of creative intelligence source emerging through you as you. And so that's just a recap. And now I feel like it's a perfect time. I'm just going to take a moment and share the trailer to my book with you, because this September will be the 10th anniversary of this book baby of mine. And I just really want to share it with the world, because 10 years later, I can see it's gotten me to this now moment to be able to share everything I just shared with you, from inspired speech, from intuitive knowing, trust, love, peace, joy, and guidance. Honestly, when I woke up this morning, just a little tidbit before I share the video with you, I feel like a lot of you probably can resonate with this. There's been so much since July, mid-July, coming up in me that's been like purging out of me, especially emotional body. For me, it's been highly emotional body. I thought it would be more mental body, but it's actually been a lot of emotional body stuff. And there's a whole other show on that coming up. And if whatever you've been noticing that's been purging through you, there, just know and trust the process, like I just shared with you with my book, because this is happening specifically perhaps with something in your life as well as globally. And it's happening, collectively too, for, all of us in different ways, shapes, and forms. And sometimes we can get too caught up in the immediacy of whatever is coming up to clear, whatever is being revealed, and create new stories that don't expand but only contract us and keep us in those places where we're actually resisting what is wanting to express through us. And that's why I think there's such a high degree of anxiety and mental health concerns on the planet right now. And I also feel that this is why people sometimes are stuck in their trauma, because I remember a quote in The Alchemy of the Nine Dimensions by Barbara Hand Clow that I quoted in my book. I reference her in my book because I have enormous respect for her work. And she talks about, in reference to the Mayans, about how creating is more fun than curing. And that speaks to my heart and soul. Even right now, this morning, yesterday, I went for a walk by the ocean here where I am in Cozumel, Mexico, and had a lovely breakfast and reflected and, had my papaya boat. And then as I was walking home, the strangest thing happened. And this has only ever happened to me one time here before. And it was actually an activation on a soul level that opened up a whole new trajectory for me. So I kind of had that as a like a little like side note to remind me in the moment when it happened. But as I was walking, I completely was incredibly hot. That aside, as I was walking, and I know the sidewalks can be uneven, I literally tripped and fell. And actually, no, I didn't trip. I've got to be careful how it's kind of like a default to say tripped and fall. I just fell. There was nothing that I could conceivably saw that I tripped on. The sidewalk was even there and everything, and I just fell. And I was so relaxed and I was so in flow that when I fell into something. Obviously the sidewalk, but I also fell into something on a soul level. And my body was so relaxed that I barely had a bump or a bruise on my knees, and I bruise really easily. But I did have this baby right here on my arm. And it was so interesting because I was navigating an inquiry, a reflection inside of myself about a decision to do something or not. And that was what I was experiencing the last time that happened to me here in Cozumel, where the sidewalk literally was uneven and it was a very hot day and I was feeling tired. And so I could have made a story out of that. And there was a little twinge inside of me, but my first immediate sense of it was like, oh, this is a good thing. I'm excited that this happened. Who's excited that they fall and bruise themselves or scrape themselves? But this is what I mean, like both literally and metaphorically. What we're all being invited to see right now through the soupiness of density are the diamonds in it, are the star energy that's being called forward in all of us, that we are so much more, there's so much, I'm going to just say it straight, there's so much off-planet presence and energy and so many of you, especially if you're watching this channel and you're watching this show, star seeds, light workers, earth angels, however you like to describe yourself, there's this energy that really is creating a lot of contractions and birth pains, and it's the most important thing that I would hope that you would possibly take away from what I'm sharing today, that is that you're creating through that. It's fertilizer for the soul. Don't lose sight of that. Try your best to really, and that's why this morning there was a part of me that was like, oh, my lower back, actually my psoas muscle, I've been doing work on that, went out after the fall. There was a little bit of an impact, and that's my root, my sacral. So it's seeing what happens as an invitation to love yourself more back into the light, rather than letting it be the totality of your experience, of your truth, and whether or not you should throw in the towel. So that's why I'm still here today sharing this with you. And on that note, I'm going to share with you the trailer to my book, because I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed creating it. And then we'll get ready to close in a moment. Thank you for still being here. And actually, before I do that, I'm just going to check over in the chat and see if there's anyone here. Okay, okay, I'm going to share the trailer with you now. Okay. My name is Pollyanna Blanco, and I'm so excited and honored to share my new book with you. In Rhythm with Your Soul, break through the barriers to being creative, face your demons and dance. In Rhythm with Your Soul will help you to recognize those aspects of self for what they truly are. Your personal demon appearing in different forms to help you to grow. The good news is your demon is not to be confused with anything evil like a demon. Your demon may seem more foe than friend at first, but it is really just your soul communicating to you to help you to grow. May you dive into the depths of your soul, befriend your body, master your mind, and soar with your spirit. When you do so, your life force then ripples back out into the world, inviting others to join the dance of transformation. And the world is the better for it, because you are now in rhythm with your soul. So there you go. That was the book trailer. And there's a bit of a story behind that too, because that came together on a hope and prayer, just for cost, out of the goodness of everyone who you saw that contributed to that. I'm getting choked up as I say it, that video. That video touches my heart when I watch it, because it wasn't like I hired a company to do it. I just reached out to people who I felt guided to reach out to, and we collaborated, and out of the goodness and the goodwill and the heart of everyone who was we were all working on birthing our dreams. From the gentleman who shot the video, they were friends of mine who were working full time in a tech company and passionate about video in their off hours, to the female dancer who was the receptionist at a clinic that I was going to for my weight training at the time, who was a young and up and coming, beautiful, talented dancer. You know, we did it. That was a project of pure joy. And even when I heard that, putting together a book trailer would be the way to go. I had no idea how to do it. I had very limited resources, and of course, my logical mind wanted to tell me it wasn't even possible. And yet it came together, and it came together with so much grace, ease, and flow. I can't even begin to. I'm still to this day and deeply grateful. And I still keep in touch. With these wonderful souls. So I share this with you because I really, really, really feel the message is coming through so loudly these days that you are the new earth. There are creative impulses inside of you. There are dreams that are wanting to birth. And those dreams, a lot of them, especially when they feel so big that your ego mind wants to contract them and lock them down from happening, are soul dreams. And it's your soul wanting to emerge through them. And this is why I've also been calling myself a creative midwife, because I know from my own journey how I did it alone. And that's probably why it took me 10 years. Had I had someone consistently walking beside me, or someone I could check in with from time to time even, or even had the awareness that I now have in hindsight that I gained through the process to help me really receive the inner riches. The book was an expression of the journey. The riches I gained through the journey are so much more than the book. And yet the book continues to expand me by even being here today and sharing it with you and inspiring me on a whole new level to serve even more. So you never know what these creative impulses are calling you forward to and into in ways that you can serve. It starts with taking the first step. And if you'd like some help with that, or you'd just like to have a conversation with a warm bevy beside me, please don't hesitate to send me an email at info@pollyannablanco.com. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Chakra-Care for the Creative Soul. And I wish you a beautiful window of time to really tune into your deepest knowings and trust yourself. Lots of love and light, beautiful creative soul. And the catch Alakeen, I am another you, and you are another me. Be well. And we're going to go out in just a second. Okay, there we go. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Looking forward to when we connect again.